Thanks to those joining me live and to those that'll be joining me on archive. D-Style Boxing here. Second half of ACP. I'm being joined by Maestro A. Got the show every Monday, mano a mano. Ringside Reporter, Joe Habib from Ringside Reporter, of course. Check him out every Sunday. We have Gail on here with us. How are you doing, Gail?
I'm great. Glad to be here. I hear that this show was short on opinions, so I
Well, there you
needed
go.
to come in.
Absolutely. And of course, the one and only Ring IQ is joining us as well. How are you doing, brother?
Hi, how you doing?
Hey, we're doing good. We're doing. Everybody subscribe to Ring IQ, all that good stuff. And Gail, well, where can people find you? Like on YouTube or social media?
So I have a regular column. I am an actual old school writer, and right there, Communities Digital News, which is COMMDIGI News, comdiginews.com.
There you go. Everybody, go ahead and check that out. All right, hit my like button if you're listening on archive. And right now, live, I want to start with a what if. All right, and I know this one's going to be hard for Maestro and Beeb especially, but. And maybe Gail and Ring IQ too, but what if Wilder wins? I know you don't think he's going to win, but what if he wins? What happens next? Do we get a fourth fight? Do we get Joshua versus Wilder, for undisputed? Is Glovegate, conspiracy theories, are they vindicated now in their minds? What happens? I'm going to start with you, Maestro. What if Deontay Wilder wins? Try to put yourself in that universe right now.
Well, I mean, if Deontay Wilder wins, he wins the fight. I'm assuming if that does happen, it's likely going to be by knockout. I can't really envision that happening because I saw a Fury that lost almost 150 pounds, was by his own definition on drugs, illegal, had to lose a whole lot of weight. Essentially had a prolonged fat camp, and he couldn't pin him to the canvas, as we both saw. He got off the canvas once, he got off the canvas twice, and in that first fight, I mean, he finished the fight stronger, actually hurting Wilder. Now let's flash forward to the rematch, and he took Wilder's best shot. This wasn't a Fury coming off a prolonged fat camp this time. This was a Fury that had two fights, one against Otto Wallin, where he was brutally cut up and survived it. I thought he won every round. And previous to that, he had really done a job on Tom Schwartz. Some of the best defensive work I've seen by any heavyweight in that second round when he was against the ropes, just bobbing and weaving and slipping. It was beautiful to watch.
But what if he loses, though? Because we all know the path. We know what happened. But what if he loses?
I'm preparing you for reality right now, D-Style. That's what I'm doing. So, look, he couldn't hurt him in the second fight. He took Wilder's shots flush. The thing is, Wilder telegraphs his punches. Everyone in the arena can see when he's throwing his right hand. Fury took it, and then he dominated him. And since that time, I've just seen a man in a terrible mental state that can't deal with a loss, and who's invented every excuse under the sun to explain why he didn't win the fight. So
let me ask you one more time, Milcar.
Yeah.
We know you don't think he could win, but if he wins, so what happens if he wins?
Well, if he wins, I'll guarantee you we won't see Fury's people talking about Sugar Hill spike the water. We won't be hearing Fury talking about a suit. We won't be hearing Fury's team talking about egg weights or about glove placement or about possibly having COVID-19 or about white privilege or about anything else. I'll tell you that much. If Wilder wins, we won't be hearing any of that from Team Fury. That much I can guarantee you.
All right. So we'll have someone who will accept defeat, in other words. Okay. Joe Habib, talk to us. What if? How's Sunday morning going to be if Fury loses the fight?
I don't think Deontay Wilder has any intentions of unifying these titles. I used to think he did. I was falling for that, falling for the rah-rah from Wilder, the one face, the one name. But there's just too many times that fight was just kiboshed because of him. I think AJ wants to fight. I think Eddie Hearn wants to fight. I don't see Wilder fighting Fury a fourth time. I just don't see that. He may go on that hold the WBC title hostage. He may go back on that whole thing, what he was doing before. Just keep fighting the PBC guys, keep recycling them, right? I don't see him unifying, and he'd fight Fury before he'd fight Joshua. Let's just put it that way. So I just don't think he wants to do any business with Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn for whatever reason, whether it be a personal thing or whatever. I don't know, but I think he'll just basically hold the title hostage and just keep all the fights in house like he was doing before. My opinion, seems like the most plausible outcome if you look at the evidence. Behavior is proof, right? We got to go by what he did in the past, right?
Okay. Gail, let me ask you next. What do you think will happen if Wilder wins this fight?
You're going to see Fury, Wilder, or will in this case be Wilder, Fury 4. You're right. You're right that Wilder wants no part of Joshua. And the problem is the biggest money fight is not Joshua and Wilder. There's not a big payday in that, a big gate. The big fight is still Fury and Joshua, Fury and Joshua. And you're right about Wilder. I don't think he wants to unify. He will pull an Adonis Stevenson and duck anybody he doesn't think he can beat. But if he does beat Fury, he'll say, oh, well, I beat him once. I can beat him again. And that's a fight everyone will want to see. There is a lot of money in it here in the United States. Fury has already said he'll fight him a 4th time, a 6th time, a 72nd time if he wants. So I think that's the fight that gets made. Now, Maestro, I agree with you. I don't think it's happening. Certain fighters have a guy who's kryptonite, and Fury is Wilder's kryptonite. He's living rent-free in his head. He's messed with him. He knows how to handle him. He calls him a one-trick pony, and he's not wrong. So if he can see that right hand coming, there's virtually nothing Wilder can do to him. He calls him a pony, and I still think he will take a 4th fight with Fury if he wins, as improbable as that is.
Okay, all right. Ring IQ, let me ask you next, man. Well, what happens if Deontay Wilder happens to win this fight?
Well, I think that a 4th fight is a possibility. I'll say that Deontay Wilder by knockout is not as crazy as it sounds, because we just saw Gabriel Rosado knock out Beck the Bully. Everybody picked Beck to win that fight, and look at what happened. This is the heavyweight division. Anything is possible, so I don't dismiss that possibility. To me, it's entirely possible Wilder could knock him out for more reasons than one. But as far as what happens if he knocks him out, we either see a 4th fight or we see Wilder versus Andy Ruiz at the end of the year, and they'll use the name of Anthony Joshua to sell the fight, because he can always say, if he wins the Ruiz fight, if he wins the Fury fight, if he wins the Ruiz fight, the marketing angle becomes, well, I knocked out the man that knocked out Andy Ruiz. You saw what happened to Ruiz with Areola now that he lost the weight. I always said he shouldn't slim down. He should stay his size and focus on subtle movements and boxing on the inside. If anything, he needs to focus on his feet. Just figure out how to cut the ring off, and he's dangerous, because I've always thought he was dangerous. But he lost all that weight. He lost that shock absorber in his neck. I think he took a right hand from Areola, and his head got jostled. If Areola can hurt you and drop you, then Wilder can knock him out. So I'm thinking if he wins the Fury fight, we either get Wilder versus Fury 4, or we get Wilder versus Ruiz at the end of the year on pay-per-view. As far as undisputed, it won't happen in this cycle of heavyweights. Maybe the next one, but not this one.
So regardless of who wins, no undisputed?
No undisputed with this cycle of heavyweights.
Man.
It won't happen. It won't happen.
Man, oh man. Hey, Chief Funky, how's it going, brother?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Here's a question. What if Deontay Wilder wins? What happens?
Well, man, that's a good question. I think I would have to agree with what Ring IQ just said. I think you'll probably go ahead and fight Andy Ruiz. I actually think that's a big fight and an interesting fight. especially because both guys are PBC, easy to make, in-house money, and it's a good fight too, you know. But you guys know me; I'm a big fan of Undisputed. I would rather see Undisputed. I just don't know if that will happen if Wilder wins. He had an opportunity to do that with Anthony Joshua. Didn't happen. So I think that the odds are pretty low if he wins this fight for Undisputed. But personally, what I would think if he wins the fight, I mean, hey, I would give him his congratulations, say good job, you know. Don't make any more excuses for anything ever again, please, you know. And you know, that's pretty much it. Like, I don't have any investment here in any of these guys. I just don't like the fact that he made all these false accusations with no proof. That's it. You know, it's nothing personal against Deontay Wilder. And he does have a good shot at winning because we know he's got power in that right hand. He could end any fight with a big shot. I just think that those odds are slim because Fury has taken those right hands. He's been dropped by the right hand, and he's gotten up, you know. And that was in the first fight. The second fight, he took the right hand away from him pretty much. So I think it's good. It's pretty easy to say that Fury's going to be the favorite for good reason. I think he's going to win. But if Wilder wins, I think that's what will happen. End up fighting Ruiz.
Hey, real quick, shout out to A-Rod, Round 1, Run PMC, Big Dog Willie, the GOAT, Maestro in the chat as well, Chicano Prophet, H, Money's in the chat as well, Big Dog Willie, AJ made it real hard to make Undisputed for Wilder. I mean, I think there's two sides to the story. I mean, keep in mind, Wilder himself came out and said that AJ offered him more money than Fury out of his own mouth. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? So that's that. A shout out to Big Dog Willie for that super chat. I appreciate that, brother. All right. The fix on here. How's it going? And of course, Crenshaw, Freddie, Shane. Let me just say this really quick. I'm favoring Fury to win the fight. All right. But I don't think it's the home run 100%, okay, call that people think it is. I think now Wilder knows that Fury can blitz him at the beginning, which I don't think he saw coming. It caught him off guard. He'll be ready for that. I think he'll give Fury some fits early in the fight. I think it's going to be closer early. And I think Fury runs away with it in the latter part of the fight. You know what I mean? I think he'll take over it. Take over the fight. I don't think it's going to stop Wilder, and I still stand firm on this. Okay, he hurt Wilder in the second round. Wilder was off balance for like 5 rounds, and they had to throw in a towel. He didn't knock him out cold, right? That's not going to happen again. It's unlikely he hurts him the same way in the second round again, right? He might hurt him throughout the fight, but I don't think it's going to be to the point where it's going to be off balance for 5 rounds. So I think it goes 12. I think Fury wins about 8 or 9 of those rounds. That's how I think the fight's going to go. Personally, as far as if he wins, let me say this. If Wilder wins this fight, there is no doubt in my mind that the Glovegate conspiracy theorists will be, quote-unquote, validated, at least in their minds. It will validate to them that the second fight was not so much a fluke, but that there was cheating going on. I think that's what we're going to be dealing with in the aftermath of the fight. That's what I personally feel, right? Let's go ahead and proceed here to the next topic. Triple G. Triple G. Shout out to Sean Ohara from The Ring. Tweeted out that Triple G is in dispute. He's in dispute with the DAZN, the streaming service, wants him to fight Andrade in a unification, right? Let me make this very clear right now, okay? Andrade has been, I'm sorry, Triple G has been given some gimmies, a lot of money by the DAZN, all right? And I'll let the panel kind of give their thoughts on this. Let's start with Ring IQ. What are your thoughts on this, brother?
Well, Triple G's been a bad investment because the only reason they paid so much to get him was on the premise that there would be a third Canelo fight, and that was never a guarantee. The whole rift between Canelo and Golden Boy is a promise that they made that he was never on board with. Oscar's promising the DAZN a third Triple G fight, but Canelo never promised the DAZN a third Triple G fight. That's why he had to get away from them people. So you got this guy, you have paid this guy $14 million for Steve Rolls, another 14 million for Sergey Divianchenko. I believe he got something like 7 million for Kamil Zeremata. You're pouring millions upon millions of dollars down the drain on this guy for a fight that ain't even going to happen, because Canelo's up there 68. We know what he doing, right? He focusing on Undisputed at 168. Triple G down here costing all this money, and you acting like you too good to fight Andre. You not. So I'm all for them pressuring him to fight Andre, because to me, it's ridiculous. I forgave him for the Steve Rose fight. Like, you know what? Okay, maybe things will get serious. But Sergey Divianchenko, right? Okay, he's a good fighter. He's not a bad fighter. He's a good fighter. But that's like, don't act like you saved the motherfucking world because you fought Sergey Divianchenko. That's a solid fighter. That's not even a great fighter. Like, I'm not trying to be short-sighted, but I'm keeping it real. Sergey is a solid fighter. He's solid. That don't mean it's a great win that, oh, I get the coast now. I'm on easy street now because I fucking fought Sergey. So fucking what? Jacobs fought him before you. Matter of fact, you were supposed to fight him before Jacobs, and you chose to fight Vanez. That's what you chose. All right, it's like I'm up to here with Triple G because I'm sick of the bullshit. My problem is, it's not that I think Andrade is great. It's not that I think he's bad. It's that he should not be going through that. You're with a major promotional outfit. It shouldn't be that hard to make a fight for him, and it's because of guys like Triple G. Charlo's gonna avoid him like the fucking plague. He's gonna avoid him like COVID. He's socially distancing. You don't want to fuck with him. Fine. But Triple G, you right there, bro. If he's a piece of shit, then go show me he's a piece of shit. Otherwise, I don't want to hear it. I don't like the Murata fight, which they talked about. I think it's a good fight. But you want to wait till New Year's Eve to do that, bro. That's ridiculous. So what, you're gonna sit out the whole year waiting for Ryota Murata? It has to stop. So that's my thoughts on that. I'm all for DAZN pressuring him to earn his motherfucking money because he needs to.
Damn. Preach. Gail, what do you make of this this news here? DAZN versus
Boy.
Triple G.
Everybody wants to get in the boxing business, and then they find out how hard it is. You know what? This is very similar to the problems that DAZN had with Canelo and Golden Boy. You know, DAZN got themselves confused with being a promoter. They're not. They're a broadcaster. They're not a promoter. They're the media. They're the media partner of promoters. They can pressure them all they want, but they don't get a say. So they've now got a problem that they bought into something that wasn't entirely what they thought it was. Well, they did the same damn thing with Canelo. Now, they managed to fix that situation, much to Canelo's benefit. Triple G has one foot out the door. He's done. He's almost done. He's very disenchanted with the business of boxing as a whole. And I've had discussions with him about this on the record and off. You know, maybe we don't love it that he's going to sit around and wait for the Murata fight, but you know what? It's his career, and he can do that if he wants to. Now, DAZN says our way or the highway. I think he'd probably take the highway, so they need to be a little bit careful about that. Andrade is never going to happen. That is a horrible style fight for him, and he knows it. The fight that's going to happen within the DAZN camp is Jaime Munguia. Jaime Munguia is who he wanted to fight when the California State Athletic Commission said, no, he's not ready for you. And then we ended up with Vanes Martirosyan. So Munguia has always been lurking there. And I do think that's a fight that Triple G would take and can handle and would do business with. Whether they want to take a chance on that before Murata, I doubt it. He doesn't want to blow that payday. New Year's Eve in Japan for boxing is like Cinco de Mayo in the Western United States. It is a big, big boxing holiday. He is not going to blow that payday. And if it's his last fight, he goes out with a big fat paycheck. You know, everything's working for him. Is it working for the fans? No. When was boxing ever putting the fans first? Unfortunately, if we get put first, it's by accident.
Well said. Well said. A lot of the truth hurts, but it's true. You know,
it does hurt. It does hurt. Damn it.
Hey, G Funky, talk to us, brother. What do you make of Triple G going at it with DAZN? You don't want to fight Andrade. You know what I mean? Well, what do you make of it?
Terrible, man. That's terrible to hear because middleweight is one of the original weight classes in boxing, and for these middleweights to be behaving this way, not wanting to fight or make fights happen is just disgusting, in my opinion. Same thing with the welterweights. A lot of those guys aren't trying to fight either, and that's another original weight class in boxing. Triple G, I mean, Ring IQ's right. They brought him there to DAZN because they wanted to make that Canelo fight. Now, I know I'm in the minority when it comes to this, but I think he deserves that third fight. The first fight was a draw. A lot of people felt Triple G won that fight. Second fight goes to Canelo officially. Arguably could have went either way, in my opinion. I know there's a lot of people that feel Canelo won that fight. I felt it could have went either way. Very close fight. So I think a third fight is due for him. Although I think it would probably be a pretty one-sided fight right now, especially because he's going to have to move up to 168 to fight Canelo if that's going to happen. And I don't see that happening. As far as Andrade goes, yeah, it sucks, man, that he doesn't want to fight him, because I think he does have a chance to beat him. I know his style is tricky. He's very unorthodox. He's a southpaw, but I mean, his last couple of fights, Andrade has not impressed me. I feel like Triple G has a decent shot at beating him. And man, think about it. If he gets in there and fights this guy and he does beat him, man, he shoots right back up there again, But unfortunately, it seems like they don't have the confidence in him. At least his team doesn't. I don't think that fighters are afraid to fight other fighters. I think it might be other things like promoters and stuff like that. So I don't know what happens, man. Hopefully they work it out and they get that fight, because I think that's an interesting fight. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
Interesting. Well, what do you make of it, Joe? Well, what do you make of it, brother?
Larry Holmes once said that any fighter that says they don't fight for money, they're an idiot, quote unquote, right? You can hear fighters say, well, I want to unify the division. You can hear fighters say that I'm fighting for legacy. But at the end of the day, the guy's 39 years old, right? He's looking for an exit strategy, as Gail said. So all the fights that aren't big money fights for him, and if they're going to be high risk for lower money, then he's gonna sideswipe those. He's gonna swerve them, and that's his prerogative. I wasn't a big fan of these long-term contracts that DAZN were laying out there right from the beginning. HBO, they tried to get away from that when back in the day when they were in boxing, they were only giving guys like fight to fights or 2 fights, 3 fights. And that's why Floyd Mayweather jetted from HBO, because he wanted a commitment and HBO wouldn't give him the commitment. So I think DAZN learned their lesson. I think they had that issue with Canelo, right? And now they're having the issue with Triple G. I think moving forward, you won't see them make this mistake again, right? So this was a learning experience. I would love to see the fight with Andrade, but like Gail said, it's a horrible style matchup, and I just don't think it's in the cards. I don't think we'll ever see it. But I think that eventually what's going to happen is DAZN will probably try to restructure this deal with Golovkin, and they may have to make some adjustments. I don't know what the contract says or what the details are, but at the end of the day, I mean, they are the broadcaster, so if they don't like the fight, they don't have to put it on. So I also don't like the fact that he is going to be shelved for a long period of time. I don't know. Are they going to give him a tune-up in between, because he's an older fighter? He shouldn't be shelved that long. I just don't see how that's going to be beneficial for him at all. But, I think this is what we're going to see. I think this is what we're going to see. I think that you'll see him fight Murata and then possibly Munguia, and I think he may be out of there after those 2 fights. I don't think you'll see him staying there too much longer. Maybe 2 fights and he's done. 39 years old. He had that tough fight with Derevyanchenko that I actually thought he lost. Fighters know. They know. They know. They know where they are in their careers. They know what they got left. So I think he knows that he's turning the corner, and he's probably got that 1 foot out the door.
The Fix just posted they also overpaid for the Garcia Vargas fight. Poor DAZN. I mean, I wouldn't call them poor because they're not poor, because they have a lot of money to give out. But I know what you mean, though. Hey, Amilcar, what do you make of this? Ohara putting this out there. Sources told him Triple G going at it with DAZN because they're trying to force that unification fight. They paid him a lot of money, but there's no loyalty in boxing like that. So what do you make of it?
Well, I don't really have much sympathy or empathy for Triple G or for Andrade in this circumstance, and I'll get into it in a minute. I agree with pretty much everything that's said so far. I very rarely disagree with my man G Funk Stradamus over there, or with my man Chicano Prophet there in the chat, but I do disagree about this idea that Triple G deserves a rematch with Canelo. Canelo's a superstar at this point. He's separated himself from the pack. And if I'm in his shoes and I'm literally the big dog in boxing, I'm not giving any kind of a rematch to a guy who was very unsportsmanlike in defeat and who essentially accused me of taking performance-enhancing drugs. So pushing that to the side, Triple G signed an outrageous contract. I believe it was reported to be by The Athletic, 6 fights, $100 million. Do the math, that works to about $16 million a fight. And for what? I mean, really, guys, ask yourself for what? Steve Rolls, Derevyanchenko in the fight that Joe just said, I agree with. I felt he lost that fight. And then Camille Zerameta, a guy who just got blown out by Jaime Munguia, a 22-year-old, or something around that age, young in any event. I'm not a big fan of Triple G. I've said it for a while. Talented guy, but has essentially been untested for most of his career. I think he's one of the most overrated middleweights of all time, not just recent times, of all times. When you look at his record, look it up to down. I mean, I've been calling BS on this dude's career since essentially the Kell Brook fight when he fought a blown-up welterweight. But you could even go further back than that. I mean, Canelo was getting heat for who he was fighting, while this guy was fighting, you know, people that most like casual fans will have never really even heard of, you know, and getting tremendous credit for it, being called the most avoided man in boxing. Really? The most avoided man avoids fighting his mandatory, drops the title. Wait a second, I thought it was hashtag all the belts. Well, apparently that shit stopped, and it was no longer hashtag drop all the belts when this dude dropped the IBF title to avoid taking on Sergey Derevyanchenko, and then fought a blown-up Vanez who took the fight on short notice and had no chance of winning that fight. Oh, but wait a second, I thought it was Mexican style. Well, it was Mexican style until you got the $100 million contract, and then you decided to dump Abel Sanchez so that the man wouldn't get his 10%. The man built up your career. What happened to Mexican style then? So it's been bullshit for a long time, guys. It wasn't just Steve Rolls, all right? It wasn't just Vaness. You know, you go to Kell Brook, Dominic Wade, Willie Monroe Jr. I mean, this is not the killer's row of middleweights. But yet this guy's heralded to be like some kind of an all-time fucking great. No, you're not. Kelly Pavlik would have beat your ass. Bernard Hopkins would have beat your ass. Okay? Jermaine Taylor, in his prime at 160, would have beat your ass. But yet, none of these dudes are mentioned in the same breath as Triple G, with the exception of B-Hop. Mentioned in the same breath as Triple G. Why? Most overrated. And look up and down his resume, and you know what? The DAZN's getting exactly what they deserve. What the fuck you think was going to happen when you give a guy $100 million 6-fight contract and essentially allow him to choose his opponents? Seriously? Did you not live through the Roy Jones era of him beating up cab drivers and people like me, school teachers and bus drivers and sanitation workers, putting his hands behind his back and knocking fools out? Come on, there's a history of this. They deserve all of it. All of it. Give them all. Give them all.
Nobody's safe here. Roy Jones getting shot down. Everybody's getting shot down right now.
Does he beat William Jaffe?
I'm just going to keep my comment about Andrade real short. This dude did this to himself. He did this to himself when, as a highly decorated amateur, he decided to take the bag in the signing bonus and sign with Joe LaGuardia Boxing that put him on the path to nowhere. No stardom, no fanfare, no promotion. No one knows who you are. Then he took the path of fighting for WBO titles, which to me are still just above fringe. All right. And what does that do? It excludes you from being in the rankings of the WBC, IBF, and WBA. So you're carrying around an interim title that you won that's excluding you from being able to take on the champions who, guess what? They don't really want much to do with you. You're carrying around the WBO title. You haven't beat anybody. All right. Very few people know who you are. You're a southpaw with an ugly style. Like, and then I'm listening to Joe's show. He's saying he won't go to Japan to fight Murata on his home soil. Really? So Murata's expected to go to you and fight at the Dunkin' Donuts arena, in fucking Rhode Island, because you can't get on a plane. Murata. Did he not say that, Joe?
He did.
Thank you.
Let me tell you something. Like, you're banned from Kazakhstan, Rhode Island, anywhere else you want to get banned from. Like Pensacola, Florida.
He can come to Beantown anytime he wants.
I'm welcome in the Bronx, New York. That's all that matters to me.
In the boogie down, baby. In the boogie
Crenshaw says, give Maestro Triple G's contract. I appreciate the support, brother. And hey, why not? 20. Man, Maestro, we're going to go back around here. We're going to start with you, all right, with this follow-up. Is the DAZN, in your opinion, starting to regret some of its early investments into boxing? Like, that they really believe that if they paid these guys all this money, they'll stay loyal to the DAZN, and like for example, I could just imagine Triple G being asked to fight Andrade for the same amount, or probably less than what he fought Steve Rose for, right? And they're asking him to fight Andrade for that. He's probably looking at that and like, why would I do that? You gave me this much to fight Steve Rose. Why would I fight Andrade for anywhere near that same amount? It's a tougher fight for me. Not only that, they did pay a lot of money to Vargas. And by the way, to the fighters that got their money, get your money. There's no beef with the fighters. I'm glad you got paid. But make no mistake about it. In my opinion, the DAZN made some early investments. I think it kind of messed up the market a little bit, especially for a lot of promoters. I know Triller, we talked about this, offline, Triller, is kind of doing the same thing now. But what do you think, Maestro? Are they regretting some of the early investments they made into boxing?
All right. Well, I'm going to give my answer now with the asterisk that I'm going to be able to amend it later on, because I'll tell you why, and you're going to agree with
amends. What is an amendment?
Agree with me when D-Style. The fact is, we are going to know the definitive answer to that question when Devin Haney makes his decision, because they put a lot of money into Devin Haney. He's making multi-million dollars a fight. And if they give him that money so he just goes and signs with Top Rank or PBC, or, decides to do his independent thing under Devin Haney Promotions, then, it won't necessarily be a worthwhile investment. Because he's one of the guys that did get a really big contract along with Canelo and Triple G. Now, when you're looking at the DAZN, you got to look at them not just as a TV network, but as a tech company, which is what they actually are. Their idea was to move into the space, just like Amazon did with retail, and take significant losses up front to disrupt the market, just like Uber did with the taxi industry. I mean, it was falling apart here in New York City. Why? Because Uber was losing money to disrupt the market. The DAZN attacked this with the exact same perspective. Let's get in there. Let's overpay. Let's disrupt the market. Let's get rid of HBO. Let's get rid of Showtime. Let's get rid of pay-per-view, because pay-per-view is dead. You guys all know the history. HBO, they did a no mas. Showtime, it looked like they were heading in that direction too. And then all of a sudden, they came back like Castillo did against, or like Corrales did against Castillo after he spit out the mouthpiece and came back to knock him out. Like, we thought Steven Espinosa was gone, and all of a sudden, Steven Espinosa is back. So it's been disruptive for sure. I don't think it's been as disruptive as they hoped it would be. The DAZN's 2.0 strategy moving forward, where they're not paying as much anymore, is really going to give us the answer, because we're going to see if the worker is going to be loyal to the person who overpaid them at the beginning and is going to accept less money moving forward. To honestly, if you're in Devin Haney, now you're going to be asked to get into tougher fights for less money. So again, that's really, to me, going to be the answer to this question.
Okay, all right. He's going to amend it, everybody. We got amendments now with opinions on here, but it's all good. Joe Habib, what do you think, man? What do you make of it?
Well, it's definitely a lost leader. I mean, they signed all these big names because they thought they were going to get the subscribers in return. We talked about this when they had Triple G for the 6 fights, Canelo for the 11 fights. That's essentially a lifetime in boxing. 6 fights is 3 years. 11 fights is like 5.5 years, right? Anything can happen in that time frame, right? So you're trying to forecast what's going to happen 3 years down the road. What if all the guys at middleweight, whatever, moved up? What if there was no opponents, right? No quality opponents to be able to make that money back that you put up, right? You don't know what's going to happen. Guys can retire. Guys can not pan out as well as we anticipated. Anything can happen. So I think they just wanted to get the subscribers. And I think they realized that it wasn't enough just to sign these guys if we can't give them big fights. You just can't throw Triple G in there with anybody, right? And it's going to be a money fight, or it's going to attract subscribers. Even with Canelo, right? I think they over-anticipated bringing all these names to the app, thinking that there would be an influx of subscribers. And I just think that their forecast for the amount of subscribers they were going to get in turn of signing all these guys, I think it fell way short. So I think moving forward, I think with Eddie Hearn's input, I think they're going to back off a little bit from these long-term deals. And I still think they're going to pay good money. I think they're still paying more than everyone else for the most part, right? I still think they're going to be paying good money for fighters and fights. But I think the long-term thing is going to go away. And I think this was just a learning experience for them. Because let's face it, they weren't known for boxing, right? This is a new venture for them, getting into boxing. And, in the beginning, they took some risks. And I don't think the risks were very well thought out. But I think they can still salvage, their losses. And I think they'll be all right. But I think they learned from it. I think, it was a mistake that can be salvaged, in my opinion.
All right. G-Funky, same question to you, brother.
Well, and as well as everyone that's been a regular here knows that this is not my specialty. I don't really care about the business side of boxing. I'm not involved in it. I don't get paid from boxing. All I care about is the fights and the fighters, But I will say this, I do have a little bit of opinion on it. I do agree. I do think that they have kind of overpaid these guys, especially the Triple Gs and a guy, Devin Haney, who really hasn't fought anybody to this point. I mean, his best win is an old washed-up Linares, and he's getting paid more money than any of the lightweights right now. So, yeah, I think they did make put a lot of money out there to try to draw people in to buy the app and stuff like that. And it doesn't seem like it's really paying off at this point, So maybe they need to rethink what they're doing here. But, I will say this before I pass the mic. I mean, these guys, they put a lot on the line, these fighters, you could be seriously damaged or even, have your life ended in the ring. So, I'm glad that these guys get paid good, because they deserve it for what they put their bodies through. But yeah, it's really not my specialty. I don't even pay attention to this type of stuff, but I do feel like it is leaning that way. Like they've dished out a lot of money and haven't got a lot back in return.
Okay. All right. Gail, same question to you. What do you make of it?
They did overpay, but they've got a lot of ways to get their investment back that doesn't involve those two fighters. DAZN just cut a massive deal with Matchroom, tossing out the agreement they'd had with Sky Sports in the UK for decades. That's a massive deal. How did they get that deal? Well, they have to have proof of concept. What do? They pay at the time two of the biggest stars in the sport and prove they can handle it and broadcast and do the promotion and get other guys and do an undercard and find venues. And so that was their beta test, everybody, in front of the world. Did they get the money directly back on those guys? No. Are they going to have a massive, massive profit from having shoved Sky Sports out of the way? Yes. That's a huge deal. We have to recognize that DAZN's business model goes far beyond the United States. And I saw the comment that boxing was on life support. Boxing is dead. We've been saying that for decades. And while boxing is certainly behind all of the major league sports in the United States, it isn't in other parts of the world, particularly Great Britain. And DAZN's got, stars in their eyes seeing the money to be made in these countries where they don't have major league football or basketball or baseball. Boxing is still big, and they're going to do the same in Asia if they can take over. But this is all proof of concept. So yes, Triple G got overpaid. Canelo got overpaid. It doesn't matter. That was an investment in their future, and they're seeing it pay off now.
Okay, all right. Ring IQ. Same question to you, brother.
Well, I mean, I think the biggest regret, the most buyer's remorse they have to have, I would say, is for Triple G, because as far as the investment they made in Canelo, it's panned out. They have a good working relationship. They have other endeavors they're going to work on in Mexico. They got so whatever money went into that, good investment. It's really Triple G that stands out as, okay, we got buyer's remorse for this guy because we ain't getting a return on none of these fights, not a single one of them. So aside from him, if you've been paying attention, they started trimming the fat, I'd say about a little over a year ago. They got rid of Nkosi Solomon. They got rid of Anthony Sims after he lost to, I think it was Romer Angulo. Little by little, they've been trimming the fat. The Chinese heavyweight that Matchroom signed, Zhilei Zhang, he's going to fight on Triller. That's where his next fight is going to be at. Not even Matchroom. They're not going to pour no more money into that guy, at least not for his next fight. So DAZN knew we're going to take losses in the beginning. We're going to take losses, but that's anything. Everything is a learning experience. For the most part, it's been fruitful because the signs are there. There's growth. They already went into 200 plus territories around the world. That's what you want to see. From the time that they started till now, have they grown? The answer is yes. Do they have good working relationships with bankable fighters? Yes. Anthony Joshua, maybe not in the UK for his next fight, but after that, where do you think he's going? He's going to go to DAZN. And anywhere else in the world you want to see this guy, you see him through DAZN. Canelo Alvarez, same situation. They had to have made money at least off of the last two fights. The Saunders fight in particular, because if you look at the numbers that were coming out of Mexico, 16 million people saw that fight. That's the kind of interest that fight had. 16 million people. That's just one country. In other countries, the price point for DAZN is actually cheaper than it is here in America. I think I bought the annual, so I don't know what the month-to-month is. I have the annual. But I'm thinking if you're an American and you have DAZN and you're on the month-to-month, I think it's $20. So I'm anticipating, I'd wager that over 1 million people decided to subscribe to DAZN for the Saunders fight. I don't know about the Callum Smith fight, but the Saunders fight, I think they got well over 1 million people in America to sign on for that fight. Most of the investments have actually panned out. They had to trim a little bit of fat. They lost money on Mikey Garcia versus Jesse Vargas. Anybody could see that. That's not a $7 million fight by any stretch of the imagination. Under PBC, under Top Rank, that is not a $7 million fight. And that's what you paid Mikey. Who the fuck knows what the totality of the show costed, right? So you lost a little bit of money on that. And you're losing money on Triple G. But as Gail said, he's got one foot out the door. Like, you ain't got to worry about him. Like, look, you might fight Andrade. Maybe you don't fight Andrade. But long-term strategy, you're not even a part of that picture. Invading other markets is the strategy now. And they're doing very well. They just had a fucking show in Uzbekistan. Who the fuck does shows in Uzbekistan? They had pop singers and shit like that for the fucking show. It's like, what I see, they're doing well. If they have buyer's remorse, I don't really think they're too worried about Devin Haney, because what's he cost? $2-3 million? What the fuck is that? That's nothing. It's Triple G I see that. I'm like, yo, dog, they had a big investment in that guy because of that fight. Now they know we're not even going to fucking get that fight. We're not getting Canelo versus Triple G3. So if there's buyer's remorse, I'd say most of it is for him. Everything else seems to be working fine.
Well said. Afro Rican G, man, I appreciate the support, brother, for that super chat. Most appreciated. We have Pound for Pound News on here. They losing money on Devin Haney. Right. There you go. A lot of people surprised to hear that DAZN is losing money. I don't know how they're doing worldwide. I'm not looking at their pocketbooks or anything like that. But what I will say is this. Look, I always hear this argument, You know, whenever a fighter is, in my opinion, because it's my opinion, is overpaid, right? I always hear the same thing said to me. Well, I favor the fighter. I want the money in the fighter's pocket, not the promoter, not the networks and all this, right? Yeah, but me personally, if you're going to pay a guy $10 million, let me just throw that money out there, right? You could do that. One guy could get $10 million, or you could give 10 guys $1 million. And then it benefits more fighters. Because if you overpay one fighter, you're taking money out of the pocket of other fighters. You're getting food off of the table. That's a term I always hear. Off of the table of other fighters. We have too many fighters out here having to work a 9 to 5 and then still go to the gym, and they ain't getting paid shit, and they're putting their life on the line. Okay, it's just as risky to them, right? So there is something to say about overpaying somebody, right? Because then you're taking money from other fighters potentially. That's how I see it. So if you are pro fighters, you don't want a fighter to get overpaid. You want it to get paid well, but you want other fighters to get paid as well, because there's more fighters underpaid in the sport than overpaid. I will promise you that any day. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to add that I completely agree with you on that, because I'd wager Adrien Broner probably got $1 million to $2 million by Showtime to fight Giovanni Santiago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Clarissa Shields was going to get paid $150,000. Now, I've always said that you cannot put the money all on her. You have to invest it in the division. Nobody's going to be interested in her because they don't know who the fuck she's fighting. And Adrien Broner is an example of why overpaying fighters is wrong. That money and that budget could have gone to Raquel Miller, to some fucking body in the division to make interesting fights. You guys chose to blow it on Broner, thinking we want to see him fight Santiago. I don't fucking want to see him fight Santiago. That dude should not be getting $1 million purses. Like, I'm sorry, but nah, that dude I don't want to see his fight. The fuck is wrong with y'all? Y'all gonna give this dude $1 million? It's mad fighters out here that's hungry that they could use a little $500,000. Heather Hardy was just talking about on Twitter. Yo, they offered me $20,000. Bear in mind, I think that was actually a generous purse for her because, I mean, let's be honest, you only fought 2 times in the last 3 years and you lost both of them fights. So, I mean, it is what it is. Better still, D-Styles made the point, and I'm going to drive it home. That's money that could go to other things in boxing. Broners should not be getting $1 million purses. No, you shouldn't. Nobody wants to see.
The problem is, well, we don't want to see him, but I bet we all watched it. People do watch him. So you're talking about where is your investment going to get a return? And boxing isn't a charity, it's a business. We don't love that, but we have to recognize that. So investing $1.5 million in Adrien Broner draws enough people to get eyeballs on your network or subscribers, and you get your money back.
Now, Gail, I want to make this point.
$1 million to lesser guys, you know, that you'd normally see perhaps in a co-main, rising star prospects, some of the bigger names you saw during the pandemic in the bubble. Was that getting the return on investment back? No, it wasn't. No. Now,
Gail, let me just make this point. The reason I brought up Clarissa and Broner, right? Broner's numbers, right, for the fight with Giovanni Santiago were less than Clarissa's numbers. That's what caught me. That I'm like, well, wait a minute. Broner's putting up the same viewership as Clarissa, but he's costing substantially more. Those funds could have been allocated to don't just give it to Clarissa, in other words, expand on other areas of boxing, because you're spending a lot of money on this guy and he's bringing you the viewership that she's bringing you. Now, you didn't think enough of her to give her $300,000. You cut it in half. You gave her $150,000. It is what it is. But if he's bringing you the viewership with his fight that she's bringing you, all right, then you shouldn't be paying that guy $1 million, especially for the half-hearted effort that he puts forth, because after the fight, the consumers weren't happy. They didn't even think he won the fight.
Well, I've got some skepticism about those numbers, but I do agree somebody of her stature should be getting more money. That's ridiculous. I mean, we're not even talking in the same league.
Right.
But remember, Broner is a special case because Uncle Al is not going to let that man starve on the streets, get himself in trouble. He's going to pay him to keep him busy. He is a charity project. He's a very unusual case. I mean, we all know that.
He admitted it in court.
Al is going to
Yeah,
take
that
care
was
of
sad.
it.
That was kind of
It is
sad.
sad. It
He
is
said in
very
court.
sad.
He said in court that he was broke, and then they're like, "Well, how do you have all this money and all these photos?" He's like, "Yo, Steven Espinoza gave that to me. Like,
Stephen Espinoza
people
and
give
Al
me
Heyman
money,
and
they
that
give me
guy.
cars."
Well, and he has also openly said that if he isn't training actively or busy, he's going to prison.
Gail,
Wow.
to your
Apparently,
point,
they
to
don't
your
want to
point,
see that happen.
Gail, to your point, I'll say that look at how he thanked Al Heyman and Stephen Espinoza after the Santiago fight. He's saying $10 million or I walk. I'm going to go to Triller. I'm going to get Triller money. So what I'm thinking is, once again, I put it on the network executive because you're the one that's going to allocate these funds. You're the one that's going to decide where the money goes. And you keep pouring money into bullshit. You're pouring money into pure bullshit. Adrien Broner is not a big name. He's familiar. We know him, but I don't want to see you fight, bro. Like, I don't want to see you fight. Nobody. I don't want to see Prograis versus Broner. Give me Prograis versus Mikey Garcia. I want to see that. Put the money up for that. I don't want to see Broner boxing on television. I seen the Mikey Garcia fight. I seen the Pacquiao pay-per-view. I seen you with Giovanni Santiago. Bro, you don't belong on TV no more.
Yeah, the
You
gimmick
don't.
wore off.
A good
Gimmick,
fight,
the
Adrien
gimmick,
Broner.
the Adrien Broner gimmick wore off at this point. I agree.
Yeah, it kind of it wore off a while ago. And look, to some people still want to watch him, sure, but to Ring IQ's point, do they have to pay? Like, if Showtime doesn't pay him that money, like who is, right?
I'll tell you. I mean, right
Oh,
now,
really quick, so we go to the next topic, but go ahead. I'm going to make
real
your point.
quick. I mean, they're looking for an opponent for Conor Ben, but he's not ready for Sean Porter. He's not ready for a lot of these U.S. fighters at 147. Feed him, Adrien Broner. They'll actually do good money out there in the UK.
All right.
I agree with that shit. That's a good ass plan.
Yeah, I agree with that. And by the way, Leonard Ellerbe came out and he said, "Hey, man, you got to bring something to the table if you want to face the cash cow, Tank Davis." Chief
Man.
Funky, I want to start with you. What do you make of Leonard Ellerbe's comments, about Josh Taylor and saying, you just don't bring nothing to the table. It takes two to tangle. You know what I mean?
Well, I have a lot to say about that, but before I do that, I just was on Twitter and I seen Demetrius Andrade tweeted out #BigDramaShow less than an hour ago. Don't know what that means. Don't know if they're planning on making that fight with Triple G or not, but that sounds interesting for sure. As for what Ellerbe had to say, I mean, this guy is getting harder and harder to listen to as the years go by. I mean, he was pretty bad when Mayweather was active, and now I feel like he's just going way over the top with Tank Davis, and the things that he says makes it hard for people to like Tank. Like, I don't have an issue with Tank, really. I think he's very entertaining. I wish he would fight the guys that we actually want to see him fight. Like, nobody was asking for him to fight Mario Barrios. Nobody was asking for him to fight Santa Cruz. Nobody was asking for him to fight Gamboa. These are his last 3 fights. We want to see this guy in there with some of the best fighters at 135, 130, or 140, wherever he's at. He's all over the place these days. But as far as his comments on Josh Taylor, like, I want to say this first. I think that it's very disrespectful the way that they're promoting this fight, calling it a world championship fight at super lightweight when there's a fucking undisputed heavyweight champion. I mean, a super lightweight champion there. Ridiculous, man. I mean, just imagine if Tank Davis was an undisputed champion somewhere and 2 guys were fighting in a division for a regular belt and they were calling it a world championship. Like, these guys would blow their fucking top. They have smoke coming out their ears, all this stuff, right? But for Tank, it's all good. Like, this is ridiculous, man. This is not a championship fight. Okay, Taylor is the undisputed champion in that division. Okay, and then for him to say that he brings nothing to the table, he's got all the belts. He's literally the best fighter in the division. And I can guarantee you this. I want to give a shout out to somebody who mentioned this to me on Twitter. If they were to make that fight in Las Vegas, Tank versus Taylor, I guarantee you those British or the UK fans will travel over here for that fight. No doubt about it. I mean, they came over here for Ricky Hatton and other UK fighters. So for me, it's just all he's saying is this: we're not fighting Taylor. That's all he's really saying at the end of the day. They don't want that work. They're up there cherry picking a guy who's literally untested. All right. I'm sorry, man, but Barrios hasn't fought anybody. So he hasn't beat anybody. This will be his first real test here against Tank Davis. Okay. And he doesn't do well against Southpaws. He's going to get beat. And you know me, I'm a guy, I like to watch the fights. I'm like Beeb. I buy all of them, but this one I just cannot get behind. I'm not buying this one. I'd rather watch the Lomachenko-Nagatani fight. I think that's a way more interesting fight than this fight, and it's for free. Okay, I do feel a little bit bad because I do want to see the Lubin-Rosario fight, but I'll catch that somehow, some way, you know. And but as for Ellerbe, this guy sucks. I'm getting sick and tired of hearing his mouth. He's always saying one thing and then another. So I'm just through with this guy, man. And this fight sucks.
Hey, Chief Funky, man, and I want to thank you for coming on, brother. I understand you could only do the hour today. Tell everybody where they could find you before you got to go, brother.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at gfunky84, and you can also find me here on YouTube at gfunkyboxing. Subscribe to the channel, and I want to say, thanks to everybody that was here. It was fun talking boxing with you guys, but I got to roll, and I'll be listening in, man. Thank you.
Right. Ring IQ. Talk to us, brother. What do you make about what Leonard Ellerbe said? Now, he did say, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to downplay his accomplishment. He did add that, but nonetheless, before we got to go, brother, give us your thoughts. Cook on this topic here, Leonard Ellerbe.
Well, I have relegated Javonte Davis's career and Leonard Ellerbe to the same file in my brain where I put Jake Paul. I don't follow your career. Like, I don't look out for your fights. Like, I don't care what you're doing at all. I don't care. I got Josh Taylor versus Jose Ramirez, no additional charge. Lomachenko versus Lopez, no additional charge. I get better fights on a regular basis from other people. I'm a consumer. That's what all of us are. We're consumers. So value for money. Is there any value for money in Javonte Davis? Absolutely not. You are ducking whole weight classes. You have not fought a solid fighter in 4 going on 5 years. The last solid dude you fought was Pedraza. That Leo Santa Cruz fight don't fucking fool me, because he ain't shit. He ain't shit. You was supposed to give Carl Frampton a 3rd fight. You ducked that shit. You supposed to give Rigo a fight. You ducked that shit. I don't like him and I don't like you. So I don't want my blood pressure to get high because I see my face getting red. I'm old. Blood pressure getting high. Come to Davis. I try not to pay attention. I try not to pay attention to Leonard. I try not. That's not boxing. That's gimmicks. That's not boxing. Boxing is about selling fights that fight fans want to see, so we'll give you our money. That's boxing. You make a fight that you think the fight fans is interested in that will generate you revenue. That's boxing. I'm not interested in nothing Javonte Davis is doing. So I don't even know if people are gonna buy that fight. I honestly don't know. Masayoshi Nakatani is fighting Vasyl Lomachenko, and I genuinely don't know if Loma's gonna get his ass beat, because he might. And that's where I'm gonna be at. I'm gonna be saying, is Masayoshi gonna fuck this man up, or is he gonna do him how he did Luke Campbell? Because he fought 12 fighters before. That's what I want to know. I don't give a rat's furry fucking ass about Mario. God bless him, because he's unbeaten. He's not the bad guy here. Leonard Ellerbe is the bad guy. Javonte, I don't want to say nothing bad, but it's like I could see, like, yo, you not really that smart, so I ain't gonna say nothing. Like, Devin Haney is smarter than you. You know what I mean? Like, you not really. I could see you not a thinker. I could see you not in control of nothing. I could see that they got their hand up your butt and they make you say shit. I'm not mad at him. I know that he don't make no decisions. So this Mario Barrios fight, I think he wanted to fight Tevin Farmer. I don't think he ever wanted to fight Vasyl Lomachenko, but I do think he wanted to fight Tevin Farmer, and they fucked it up for him. That's what I honestly believe. So future advice for all of you boxing fans out there: don't worry about what Tank doing, bro. Don't worry about what Leonard's saying. Like Leonard is crazy, bro. He's crazy. Like, his mustache is, it's like, you can see that dude is not right, bro. You indoors, you wearing sunglasses, you still get a tapered mustache, and you like 60, bro. I don't even taper my shit no more. I just shave. Like, I don't pay attention to that dude, man. Like, nah, all right, Leonard. He's an A-side, he's a cash cow. All right, Leonard. All right. He's like a crazy uncle.
That's right. That's right. Hey, Ray IQ, we appreciate you for your time, brother. Hope to have you on in the future. And everybody subscribe to Ring IQ. You have a good one, brother. Peace out to Ring IQ. Hey, Gail, we want to thank you for coming on as well. Go ahead and give us your thoughts on Leonard Ellerbe saying, Josh Taylor's got to bring more to the table. I get what he means. He means like popularity-wise, not accomplishments. But is Tank the cash cow he claims that Tank is?
Tank has a constituency. He does. He has a certain audience. I think he's still very unproven as far as a cash cow goes. You might be a little baby calf in some places like Atlanta, but that's about it. Let me tell you though, Mario Barrios, he lost his fight against Akhmedov on the Spence Porter undercard, and he got a gift. Everybody knew it. Everyone in the crowd booed, and they were all already half in the bag and still got it and booed. Barrios' resume is thin at best. I will say it was entertaining to see the face-off because against Davis, he looks like he's Sebastian Fundora. So he definitely has height and reach on him, but he is a soft touch. So Davis is going to be able to brag about going up a division and proving himself if he wins. And he's perfectly capable of it because Barrios' resume is so thin. But it's absolutely true. If that fight is staged anywhere on the East Coast, Vegas, Southern California, the British fans are going to pack the joint. And if it's in Vegas, you get a majority British crowd for a British fighter. Tyson Fury had more fans in the MGM than Wilder did by far. It wasn't even close. And the venues and the promoters love the foreign fans to come over. They spend a shit ton of money. They're enthusiastic. They buy everything not nailed down. What's not to love about that? So Ellerbe just doesn't want his guy to face somebody who's a legitimate threat. And we all know Taylor is a legitimate threat. And come on, crazy uncle, he's still wearing Juicy Couture sweatsuits. So, I mean, how much credibility do you want to give him?
Well, there you go. Well said. Gail, we want to thank you for coming on. Hope to have you on in the future. Once again, tell everybody where they could find you before you got to go.
Well, on social, I'm at PR Pro San Diego, PR Pro San Diego. My column is at Communities Digital News, COMM.com, DIGI News.com. And I love to talk boxing. I'll talk to the trolls. I'll talk to my neighbor. I'll talk to the person at the grocery store. You want to talk boxing? I'm here for you. And thank you for inviting me on with your very smart crew.
Well, we definitely appreciate you. Have a good one, Gail.
Thank you, sir.
All right. There we go. There we go. What's going on, Dave, from the 408, from the Shoe Shine? How's it going, brother?
It's going well, man. Pleasure to be back.
Shoe Shine. Good to see you, David.
Yeah.
Nice to see you guys, too.
Dangerous Dave.
Hey, man, I want to take it to you, Dave, from the 408. Leonard Ellerbe talking about, Taylor, hey, you got to bring something to the table. I mean, it takes two to tango. You know what I mean? It's just, when it comes to Josh Taylor, but, apparently maybe there's something Mario Barrios did to tango with Tank that Taylor's not. I don't know. Maybe Gamboa did something. I don't know. But what do you make of Leonard Ellerbe's comments?
Listen, I'm convinced they're going to follow the blueprint they did with Adrien Broner's career. And that was ducking all the real top talent and just try to go on a belt collection tour. And that's it. That's all it is. They're going to try to follow the exact same blueprint that worked to elevate Mikey Garcia into a star as well. I mean, Mikey Garcia's gravitated toward easy belts and is an inflated welterweight. I'm looking forward to this weekend, to little Tank being exposed this weekend.
All right. Okay. So Maestro, I want to ask you, brother, what do you make of what Leonard Ellerbe said?
Well, I feel like when it comes to Leonard Ellerbe, the first thing I have to do is just make a PSA, like public service announcement, and just beg like these YouTubers to at least maintain like 5 feet of distance from Leonard Ellerbe. because whenever I'm watching their videos, it's like the camera's all up in his nose. I'm like looking through his nose hairs and his nostrils and his big ass glasses.
So what's up, a milk car?
Like, dog, I don't need to. It's bad enough that I'm having to listen to this man speak nonsense. It's worse. It's like I got his big ass like face all in front of my face, nose hairs, nostrils. It's ridiculous. So look, 5 feet of distance, ideally 6, but we'll give it like that foot of wiggle room, like 5 to 6 feet minimum when you're interviewing Leonard Ellerbe. Now, when it comes to Leonard Ellerbe too, like, you want to see what Leonard Ellerbe is to Floyd? Like, look at his corner work during Floyd fights. It's like, you're doing great. Yeah, that was a great round, champ. Okay, champ. Yeah, champ. And that's it. You want to see what he's like? There's a video of him where Floyd is literally telling him to get out of his camera shot while he's being interviewed before the Logan Paul fight. I mean, Floyd doesn't respect this dude. So how can I respect what he says when he's saying nonsense about guys like Josh Taylor, who, by the way, is the only legitimate champ at 140 pounds? No, the WBA regular title is not a championship. I was explaining to somebody today that when they say super lightweight, they're not talking about like the super champ. It's just another way of saying 140 pounds. Like, they really got it fucked up and they got people confused about what this fight is. Liam Walsh, Francisco Fonseca, right? Cuellar, Hugo Ruiz, Ricardo Nunez, Gamboa, Leo Santa Cruz. All of these guys are less legit opponents than obviously Josh Taylor. So, like, what is he talking about? I was at the fight that Ring IQ was referring to. Tank looked spectacular. He looked like he was on his way to like something great when he knocked out Pedraza. I was there at the Barclays. It was a great moment in the man's career. But what has he done since that? It's just been cherry picking secondary titles, and that's about it. So I like Tank Davis. I like what he stands for. He speaks for his community there in Baltimore. He's a role model to a lot of people over there. But he's really got to start taking on serious fights, because when people look back at his career, if he keeps doing what he's doing right now, we're not going to look at him as someone who actually lived up to his true potential and talent.
Well said, a milk car. We're also being joined by the one and only Calix. How's it going, Calix? How you doing, brother?
Good to be with you, gentlemen.
Yeah, you're right. Everything's good except that cap. But nonetheless, go Rangers. But nonetheless, that aside, Leonard Ellerbe said, "Hey, man, Josh Taylor's got to bring something to the table. There's only 1,000 dudes at his fight last time. What does he bring to the table? The cash cow Tank sells out in Atlanta. You got to bring something." Just really quick, what do you make about what Leonard Ellerbe said?
Well, just really quick, just imagine if Arturo Gatti took that position against Floyd Mayweather. Just think if Oscar De La Hoya took that position. Then Pretty Boy Floyd never becomes Money Mayweather, right? Obviously, Floyd brought some value to the table. He was a pound-for-pound king. So even though he was fighting in ballrooms, right? He was fighting in ballrooms even after the Gotti fight. Even with all the talent, he brought the talent to the table. So you take the less of a split and then you get the fight. But he brought that value to. So let's say Arturo Gatti says, "Hey, he brings nothing to the table. I can fight these other guys for $2 to $3 million per fight. I don't have to step up and fight Floyd Mayweather. Floyd doesn't get the Gotti fight." Oscar De La Hoya could have said the same thing. "I don't want to take on Floyd Mayweather. Too high risk, low reward. I'm not going to do it." He could have done the same thing. So we never transitioned from Pretty Boy Floyd to Money Mayweather. So you have to have guys who are willing to give these guys who maybe don't bring as much value to the table shots. And he does bring value to the table. He's a top 10 pound for pound guy now. He cleaned out his division. If you want to be a real champ at 140, guess what? You got to graduate from fighting for a junior belt to a real belt. All right, so that's the value Josh Taylor brings to the table. Also, Josh Taylor will bring a lot of fans over if they open things up. So he brings value to the table. Ellerbe's just being stupid. I I'm at this point now where, and I explained it in my prediction video for the Tank Davis, which I'm sure we'll talk about soon. So I don't want to give too much away, but I'm just to this point where I don't think Tank Davis is ever going to fight that big fight. Like at least not soon. It's going to be a while before I think he's a chameleon now. Like he can say I'm at 140 right now, and then I'm gonna go back down to 135, and he can sort of pick off these little baby belts and dodge the top opposition in these weight classes. That's where I'm at.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hey, shout out to the chat. We've had a load of so I know I can't go through every chat, but we're reading them. We're featuring them in the screen. We appreciate everybody that's here. Hit the like button. I'm just 6 away from 50. Let's get a 50 by the end of this show. I believe in you. You know what I mean? If you're listening through the phone right now, all you got to do is hit that X. You know what I mean? It brings it down. Press that thumbs up, and you could pop up the chat again. You know what I mean? Let's get those likes up. And I appreciate everyone that's here, giving us your time and all that good stuff. For those listening archive, don't forget that either. Okay, we're joined by Shoeshine and Calix right now. We're gonna get to Beep for his thoughts on this as well. But I want to just once again thank Gail and thank Ring IQ for giving us the time, coming on. Great stuff, like always. This is the round table. Joe Habib has been patiently waiting since I announced this topic. You know, he brings all these to the table. I don't got to tell you that. But what do you make of what Leonard Ellerbe said? Well, what's your perspective on it, B?
These are typical Leonard Ellerbe talking points. This is what he always says, right? You know, the situation with Josh Taylor versus Jose Ramirez, obviously, we already know Josh Taylor's got a huge UK following, right? But because of the travel ban, those fans couldn't come over, so they weren't able to watch the fight live, right? Tank does draw a good house. There's no question about that. But Josh Taylor versus Jose Ramirez on ESPN, it peaked at 1.7 million viewers, right? Now, that's a decent number, right? Tank's going to be on pay-per-view, and you know, he'd be hard-pressed to have 250,000 people buy that event, right? So Josh Taylor is going to be viewed by 1.7 million people, right? He was viewed by 1.7 million people, and Tank's going to be viewed by 250,000 people. So, again, what's better for exposure, right? So,
Right.
Ellerbe says these things, and he just regurgitates them. He's a hype man. We already know that. And this whole thing about Tank being the money man, we hear numbers get tossed out there, and these numbers get embellished. They get inflated. First, Floyd Mayweather was going to make $100 million against Logan Paul. Then it was down to 50. Then it went down to 30. So these numbers, they just, you know, based off of what is Tank the cash cow, right? Based off of just him saying that. I mean, who really knows what Tank's making per fight, right? No one's really going to know that. But what we do know is they don't want any part of Josh Taylor. They know that's not a winnable fight for them. They realize that. Obviously, they can't say that. So this is what you're going to get now, right? You're going to get things like he can't bring anything to the table, and they're going to try to denigrate him. Oh, we're not taking anything away from him. Well, you kind of are. You're trying to, right. you are kind of downplaying what he did, you know. But at the end of the day, the real boxing fans aren't stupid. They know what time it is, and I think Ellerbe knows that.
I mean, is it fair to say this, Joe? Just to ask you a quick follow-up really quick.
Sure.
Do you think anytime somebody says, not to take anything away from, that usually means you're about to take away something from somebody, right? That's usually what it means?
100%. Or when someone says, no offense, that means they're getting ready to offend you. Right?
Like, no offense, but that cap sucks, Calix.
With all due respect. With all due respect.
Exposed cap, yo. That's an exposed cap.
I mean, I don't want to take anything away from 408's cap, but man, that team sucks, bro.
I mean,
I don't know who that is. That's playing up, but
with all due respect, I mean, that means you get ready to disrespect me.
With all due respect, I mean, it's the Hispanic college and pack teachers trash. I'm just telling you right now. Like, well, okay, hey, whoa, look at that. That's what I'm talking about right there. Look at that. Big angle. Hispanics causing panic. The link is on my Twitter. You can DM me all that good stuff.
Set up a body development at 52.
There you go. That's a hell of a design. All right. I have the old school one too. So, just
I got to get that one. I'm going to get that one next.
Absolutely. Hey, but now, here's what I want to get to next. I mean, we got some fights coming up, and we've all kind of touched on them. But here we are, man. Let's talk about it, okay? Tank Mario Barrios is a segue from here, babe. I mean, we made you wait till last, so we'll make you go first this time. Tank Davis versus Mario Barrios. How do you believe this fight will go? Who's going to win, and how likely is an upset here?
I have a hard time seeing an upset. I'd love Mario Barrios to win the fight. I just don't think he will. He's a tall, lanky guy, but he's not really a thick guy. He's a kind of a lean guy at the weight, right? He's not a guy that imposes his size on his opponents. He's more of a guy that lays back and likes to get distance, right? Likes to get space, throws the straight shots from the outside. Not a great inside fighter. He tries to fight on the inside a little bit, and that's when he gets touched up. So the defense isn't the greatest, but he does have some good offensive weapons, from the outside. When he has some space, can really turn that right hand over, and he's got a real sharp jab, right? Tank is a guy that he's just a whirlwind, right? He's like the Tasmanian devil. Once he gets in there, he's like a buzzsaw. And Tank has really long arms, and he has an excellent jab and he throws really good feints. He knows how to get up close. This Tank is really good up close, and he's really exceptional in the mid-range, right? So I just think Tank isn't going to have a hard time finding Barrios. I don't think Barrios is going to be strong enough with his punches to keep him on the outside. I think Tank will work his way inside, and I think you'll see Tank work the body and possibly land one of those highlight reel left uppercuts and could end the night with one of those shots. I wouldn't mind seeing Barrios win this one. I like Barrios. He's a good, great kid. But I don't know, man. He's not hard to hit. He's not exceptionally strong. He's not an exceptionally physical guy. Not a great inside fighter. What he does do well, he does well. But I don't think he has all the tools that Tank has. And I think Tank is really quick. The big question is, will he lose any speed at 140, or could he be even more explosive with the added muscle, fast twitch fibers moving up at 140? Because we all know Tank kills himself to make 130, and even sometimes struggles at 135. Would 140 be a weight where we'd see Tank at his strongest? That remains to be seen. We're going to find that on Saturday.
Absolutely. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Tony Boswan here. How's it going, man? How's it going, brother? Everybody on here. 408 Tank versus Mario Barrios. Do you smell an upset here, or how do you see it?
I smell an upset. I totally do. I'm totally in favor of El Azteca pulling off the upset. And I'm not going to say that Mario Barrios is a top 5 140-pound fighter. I'm not here to say that, because I have him below Zepeda or Baranchek, and he's definitely not Regis Prograis. Okay, but what he is he reminds me of a guy like Adrien Granados, who pulled off this sensational upset over Amir Imam, who people thought was going to be the next big thing, Amir Imam. He pulls off the upset. Or he reminds me of Josecito Lopez, that stunned the world by breaking the jaw of Victor Ortiz. That's the kind of fighter that Mario Barrios is. He has just enough tools, and Beeb pointed out some of his great tool sets, but he also has a surprising power body shot, right? He's got just enough tools, and what I think is going to happen, what we're going to see, is Mario Barrios is going to come in bloated on Friday night. He walks around heavy as it is, and as far as being bloated, I don't think the power is going to translate up to 140. I'm convinced guys who power did not translate are his homeboy, AB. Power did not translate up at 140. Mikey Garcia hasn't knocked out anybody of note at 140 pounds or at welterweight. And you got people going around in the camp of Tank saying that he could be the next big welterweight, which I think is laughable considering his size. It's not going to happen. I think they're biting off more than they can chew this weekend. And I think that what we're probably going to see is Barrios winning the fight on the scorecard. And if he doesn't win on the scorecard, we're going to get a gift decision just like we saw with Paulie Malignaggi versus Adrien Broner, we are going to get a gift decision in favor of Tank to keep this illusion going.
All right. Okay. Upset City, ladies and gentlemen. Calix, do you smell an upset in this fight?
No, no, I don't. Respectfully disagree. I was just looking at the odds. It's Barrios is down to plus 335. So Vegas is giving him a little bit of love as a respectable underdog. That's a lot more respectable than they're giving Nakatani right now. But I can't unsee the Akhmadov fight. And what happened in that fight was he had a lot of trouble controlling distance in that fight. And I just think that Tank's going to get on the inside. I don't think he's going to have any issues getting on the inside against Barrios. And he's going to catch him with a big shot on the inside and in this fight somewhere in the middle rounds. I disagree. I think that Tank has the type of power that will translate to 140, being that he gives you those shots that you don't see. And those are the shots that translate when you go up, right? So even from smaller guys. So I think Tank will have good power, respectable power at 140. And I think he's going to put Mario Barrios to sleep. And I just think, man, they know what they're like. Mayweather Promotions, they're not going to put Tank in there right now with anybody who they feel is going to give him trouble. They saw the same thing that we're all seeing with the Akhmadov fight, that he's going to have trouble controlling distance against Tank. Tank's going to get on the inside and just bang away. And that's what's going to happen in this fight. I see a middle round stoppage or knockout. I think it's going to be a knockout by Tank. But I would love if I was wrong on this and we got ourselves a firefight and Barrios taking him into deep water in the later rounds. I would love that type of fight. But I think actually as the rounds go on, Tank Davis is going to start to impose his will on Barrios and win this fight in the middle rounds.
Ladies and gentlemen, tuning into the round table número 37. Amilcar, dime lo que tú piensas de la pelea.
I'm going with Barrios in this one, man. And it may sound crazy, but I've really only been impressed by Tank Davis once since the Pedraza fight, which I talked about earlier. And it was just the kind of savagery of the knockout against Santa Cruz. I felt it was one of the best knockouts of last year. But he's ventured north of 130 pounds once. It was against an old, short, undersized Yuriorkis Amboa, and he really couldn't get him out of there in any kind of legitimate sense. And that was at 135. Now he's going up to 140. And I agree with Calix's analysis of Barrios and the distance and the struggles that were there with it. I think the main difference here, though, is that he's fighting a guy who's legitimately a 130-pounder, who's quite small for 140 pounds. And I saw Tank Davis getting touched up enough by Santa Cruz to let me know that he's there to be hit, especially by a bigger guy. Now, I was talking about this with my man Kenny, who I do mano a mano with Sunday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern. And his thing was like, yeah, I hear you, but if it goes the distance, they're just going to give it to Tank. And, you know, I kind of have to agree with that too. So I'm thinking it's either going to be some kind of controversial decision or, a Barrios win. And Dave, you brought up Adrien Broner. It kind of reminds me a bit, just in the sense of how there was a slight controversy. Again, this was a fight that took place in New York, but when he went up, Broner that is, and fought for Paulie's title and took the title from Paulie, and apparently also took his girl as well after
his side piece.
It wasn't his girl, it was his side piece. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people felt that Paulie also won that fight. So it could end kind of like that one. But I'm not sold on Tank Davis above 130 pounds. Not until it happens.
Hey, shout out to Blood Zone in the chat. Puerto Rican Rum. Shout out to everybody. New media today in the chat as well. Hit my like button, guys. And let's get a 60. How about that? Let's get to 60 by the end of the show. And I'll be much appreciated for sure. Let's bounce it back around. Back to you, Milcar. Loma versus Nakatani.
Well, D-Style, you heard me give my take on this, and you disagreed with it so much that you called in live Monday to kind of debate me on it.
I called you on the cell phone.
You did, but
to debate the fight. That's right.
Yeah, pretty much. But you know what? I still believe today at 24 p.m. Eastern here in New York City, what I believed at 8 p.m. Eastern on Monday, and that's that Nakatani's going to win this fight. Lomachenko's coming off a loss. The blueprint is there. You got to get him going backwards. You got to establish that jab. You got to be the bigger man and impose your size. And yeah, I understand you think Nakatani is like some gazelle or baby deer with Bambi legs and isn't necessarily the biggest, strongest guy at 135 pounds. But I think he's big enough, and I think he's strong enough to establish the distance, to pump that jab, to move forward. We know he can do that. To take a shot, we know he can do that. And I don't really think Lomachenko's got the punching power or honestly the speed to kind of really shock Nakatani. We saw him do very well against a guy with punching power and with speed in his very last fight. So, and it's a guy who is naturally quite a bit bigger than Lomachenko is. So Lomachenko's people are going to have to decide, like, which is it? Are you the guy who's undersized and not really a natural lightweight, and that's why you lost to Teofimo Lopez? Or are you actually a lightweight and are going to be competitive at this weight class and are going to be able to put a hurt in on a guy like Nakatani? Because to me, you can't have it both ways.
The latter.
It's either one or the other. So,
the latter.
And we're going to find out Saturday night.
And by the way, shout out. This is my Sonteo Media clipboard. Okay, this is the Four Kings right there. So shout out to Sonteo Media. And I have it in my notes right here. In the Bible, they talk about the four corners of the earth, right? So go to every corner of the earth, and you tell them D-Style said Nakatani's going to get his ass whooped. It ain't going to be close, and all these dudes, they're going to have amnesia after the fight. They're going to forget that it was a close fight, or that they had it close. They're going to forget that Nakatani stood his chance. He's going to style on him. He's going to move around. It's going to be a beautiful performance. I don't think it's going to be close. I'm just going out on a limb to saying that to you guys. It's not going to be close. Barrios Tank's going to be a closer fight than this fight. It's going to be an ass whooping. He's going to stop him with body shots. That's my opinion. But Calix, what's your opinion?
I was just looking at the odds for this fight too. Plus 604 Nakatani. He was plus 707 yesterday. You know what I think it was is people saw how much bigger Nakatani is than Lomachenko at the face. I don't know if y'all saw the face-off today. Nakatani's a big 135 pounder. Big one. I mean, you're talking about a guy with a 71-inch reach. I think he's almost 6 foot. This is a big dude, D-Style. So, but as I said in my prediction for Tank Davis versus Mario Barrios, if you're the taller fighter, the bigger fighter, you don't know how to use your size. You don't know how to establish your reach. Then it becomes a disadvantage to you. And I think that's what is going to happen to Barrios. And I think over some rounds, it's going to be the same thing that happened to Nakatani. I agree with you that Lomachenko is eventually going to go to the body, get on the inside, and get working. My issue with Lomachenko, as we talked about the other night, D-Style, is he's shown against Linares, against Teofimo Lopez, that he'll start off a little slow in fights. So if you're Nakatani, jump on this guy early. Jump on him early and see where his head's at. Being off a year, losing to Teofimo Lopez. Shoulder. I want to see where his shoulder's at. Jump on him early and see where we're at. And I think we're going to get that with Nakatani, and we're going to have some fireworks early. But the over-under is 10.5. I'm going over. I think this thing's going to last. I think Nakatani has lasting power. This is a guy who's been in there with guys. He's been in there with Teofimo, right? And he lasted 12 rounds with him. Although not a great performance by Teofimo, Nakatani's a guy who can take shots. Although he's had some injuries, I understand, but he's a tough guy who will take some shots. I think it's going over. And I think Lomachenko wins something like 116, 112, somewhere around there. 8 rounds to 4. I think Nakatani's going to have his moments early, D-Style.
My bad. I was on mute there. 408. And by the way, good breakdown, Calix. But I want to go to 408. You already picked an upset, right? You already said that you're upset city central, upset city boulevard, upset city, whatever. Are you still in upset city right now? Are you feeling like the upset city, or are you going to hedge it and go with the favorite in this one?
Well, I thought I picked an upset, but Calix just alerted me to the fact Vegas has got Nakatani up now, right? So I'm not going with the upset. I got Nakatani winning this fight.
I didn't hear that right, did I?
No. He's still an underdog. He's still
okay.
He's still a decent underdog, but not as much as yesterday.
I was about to go to just bet and put a bet. Go ahead for it.
Then that's correct. I'm absolutely picking 2 upsets this week, and for the first time, I think I'm shocked that D Styles and my co-host Drew Evo are on the same page with a Loma win. No, I think that Nakatani's got all the confidence in his corner coming off that big win against Verdejo. He's tall, he's rangy. Not Teofimo, but Lomachenko's had problems with these type of fighters, aside from the British fighter he just mentioned. And I'm not convinced that his shoulder is healed. I mean, he took way too many rounds off early against Teofimo. And I think that's where the fight is going to be really, really interesting, is rounds 1 through 6. But ultimately, this is going to be a 12-round banger. It's going to be exciting. It's free for people who don't want to spend the money on that pay-per-view. And I got Nakatani with the upset on this one.
Man, upset central. Babe! I mean, I don't know how you feel, but have you had a change of heart? You know what I mean? Have you come to reality? You let me know.
I got to be honest with you. This fight, when I saw it a couple of days ago, it was a plus 900 for Nakatani. Then I did my video, and he's like a plus 6. So I think I changed some minds. Here's the thing. Lomachenko is not this buzzsaw on the inside. He's an ambush fighter. He goes in and out. I mean, he can land body punches, but he's not a guy that's going to sit there and grind it out with you on the inside, right? He's a pattern fighter, side to side, stop, dart in, right? Pivot out right. I mean, it's great. It's great. But again, it's a pattern, repetitious attack, right? Nakatani, he's being labeled here as a caveman. Like, he's got no boxing skills whatsoever. Again, no one's calling him Sugar Ray Leonard. But again, he's got a great jab. He's got a very deceptive jab. It's a pesky jab, right? Moves it around, up and down with it, right? This is a guy that is constantly throwing punches. He doesn't stop. I'm convinced when this guy goes to bed at night, he's throwing punches in his sleep. That's how many punches this guy throws. He's a very, very active fighter. He's a guy that has a lot of determination, right? He's superbly conditioned. He's got a very, very sneaky right hand as well, right? He's got a 71.5-inch reach going up against a 65-inch reach, right? And then he's 6 feet, and he's going up against a guy who's 5'7". So his jab's going to be coming over the top of Lomachenko's. Lomachenko is going to be reaching with his jab. And I am not convinced, just like I told people with Sergio Martinez versus Miguel Cotto. Both his knees are shot. He's on the elliptical doing his road work. He's got ace bandages on both his knees. Oh, shut up, Beeb. Cotto's too small. Doesn't matter that Martinez's legs are gone. He's still going to beat him because Cotto's too small. Again, Lomachenko, his punch output has gone down. He's shown slippage. He's shown a steady decline, Lomachenko. His punch output has gone down. He threw under 400 punches against Lopez. He's had the same shoulder operated on twice, right? I have a torn labrum as well. I never had to get surgery. I rehabbed it. But again, if you're getting that same shoulder operated on twice, there's something wrong there, right? It's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse. And that's the lead hand. That's the hand that's closest to your opponent. That's the hand that you need to use to fend off an aggressive guy, keep him at bay. That's the hand that you need to occupy your opponent when you're trying to work your way on the inside. Because you can't just walk in there, right? Nakatani's going to come forward. Lomachenko has historically started slow, right? Usually gives the first 2 or 3 rounds away, or doesn't really put on an aggressive, doesn't jump out of the gate quick. It's not really aggressive coming out the gate, right? Lays back, lets the guy come to him, tries to figure him out, looks for mistakes he's going to make, looks for openings that he could exploit later in the later rounds. That lasted for the first 7 rounds against Lopez. And I heard an interview where he said, well, my shoulder, I didn't have confidence in my shoulder. I didn't want to throw my shoulder out. So I waited and I didn't throw a lot of punches because I wanted to save my shoulder for the later rounds. That's a red flag right there, guys, right? And then the shoulder's getting operated on again. So this is a guy who doesn't have that lead hand, I think, at 100%. That's going to be the punch that he needs, again, to fend off Nakatani, and he's going to need that to step inside, right? So how's he going to get inside without that punch? How's he going to get inside without that punch? Not a one-punch knockout guy, right? Nakatani, point that you made earlier, you were 100% spot on with it. Nakatani does sometimes leave his hands out there, overextends with the punches, and it takes him a while to pull him back. That's when he gets hit. But other than that, he has a high guard, keeps the elbows in tight. He's got a pretty sturdy defense. But the thing is when he does shoot the shots, he leaves the shots out there. But what makes him so dangerous is he's constantly punching. He's punching with the other guy. Even if the guy's faster than him, he's still going to punch with you. He doesn't stop punching. Right? And he's got a very sneaky right hand. And like I said, the jab is a very heavy-handed, underrated jab. I think this is going to be a horrible style matchup for Lomachenko. I just really think he's going to turn the speed up on him. He's going to turn the speed up on him, right? He's going to fight a fast-paced fight on Lomachenko, who does not like to fight a fast-paced fight, right? He's been fighting slow-paced fights for the last 3 or 4 fights. And it's funny, that I'm going to say this, but he's just not the same fighter at lightweight that he was at 130, 126. He's just not. He admittedly says, I have a hard time gauging range. These guys are bigger than me. I have a hard time reaching them. I just have a tougher time with these guys, right? And it's crazy because he won like 3 belts, right? He won all the belts, right? He pretty much unified this division. But again, he never really faced the iron. And then when he did face the iron in Teofimo Lopez, you saw what happened. He never fought a Devin Haney, never fought a Tank. That's not his fault. I'm not blaming him for that. But he never fought the iron at this weight class. He fought, the guys who were kind of on their way down, right? Campbell, Linares, good fighters, but not Teofimo, not Devin Haney, not Tank Davis, not Ryan Garcia. Those are the guys I think that would give him tons of trouble, right? We already saw what Lopez did. So I just think Nakatani's aggression, his size, his underrated boxing ability, and just the relentlessness this guy has, the determination, the durability. I just think that he's going to take Lomachenko to a place that he doesn't want to be at this stage of his career. Again, this is a guy, 400 amateur fights, 400 training camps for those fights. 33, it's an old 33. I just think he's on the other end of his career right now, and I think we're going to see Nakatani upset him. He could even stop him. Late.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see. Look, at the end of the day, the beautiful thing is that they fight the fights. Okay. I want to bounce it back to you, Beeb. Now I want to go really quick with this one. For everybody in the panel, so we could get to the divisional round for pound. We've got about 20 minutes, so let's make this one quick. Beeb, Lubin, Rosario, really good. Co-main event, one of the best I've seen for a pay-per-view in a while. First of all, are you going to buy that Tank fight? Are you going to buy that fight?
I'm struggling with it, bro. I'm real because I buy everything, but what's bothering me about this? That they're trying to counter program a great fight like Nakatani, Lomachenko. That's bothering me.
All right. Well, but Rosario Lubin, though, you think that's a good fight? Can that maybe convince you to buy it? And who do you think wins that fight?
I like Lubin.
Okay.
Too fast.
Speed will kill. Okay.
Too fast.
All right. 408. Who do you got in that fight? Lubin, Rosario.
I got Lubin. I think Lubin took on Jermell way too young in his career, and he's got an impressive streak. They both have actually impressive streaks after that loss. but I'm going to favor Lubin with much more talent and larger skill base.
Okay. All right. What about you, Calix? What do you got in that fight?
Same Lubin, and I was going to say the same exact thing. He took on Charlo at 21 years old, and he's been on sort of a revenge tour since. Won 5 straight fights. Has looked good. Although Rosario had a really good win early last year, but then Charlo kind of stopped that. But 8-9 months after that loss, I think it might be fresh in his mind. I think Lubin, the speed difference, can punch with both hands. He's minus 270 right now, so he's a healthy favorite. And I think that's correct. I think they got that Vegas has that right. And I think Lubin's going to win this fight.
Okay. We got Lubin. Maestro, who do you got in that matchup, brother? You're on mute, brother. And I cannot unmute you because you muted yourself.
Sorry, I said I'm going to disappoint my Caribbean brother Kenny, who's of Dominican descent, and go with Lubin in this one. Also Caribbean, but from the other side of that island, being Haitian. And I'm going to go with Lubin. I think he's young. I think he's strong. And I think his hand speed is going to be his real asset in this fight. And I just think that Banana gets hit too much, man. He just sticks himself out there. He takes headshots. He obviously takes body shots as well. And that style is not something that you can really prolong through like multiple kind of high level title fights. It's worked for him to a certain extent. We saw how well it worked for him against Charlo, and I don't really think it's gonna work too well for him on Saturday night against Erickson Lubin.
I think Lubin, one thing that he does have is a really good right to the body when he has guys against the ropes. I've seen him utilize it a lot. I think he's going to be landing that on Rosario, and I think it's going to wear him down. But I do think the first 4 rounds are still going to be exciting and very competitive up until he gets worn down a little bit. Because I agree with what Maestro just said. Rosario gets hit a lot, and I don't know that's a good recipe for success. Just like Nakatani, it just gets hit too much. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm just kind of putting it out there, everybody. But with that said, let's do this divisional round. Well, we've done it for divisions, but now we're gonna do it pound for pound is what we're gonna do. Okay, pound for pound, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So first, the division round, pound for pound edition. Here are the rules. I will ask you for one fighter. You will give me the name of one fighter. All right. After every person gives me a name, then we could throw out all the names we want right after that. You know what I mean? The next question, same thing. When we get to the fight, you'll give me one fight. Don't take fights from other people. We have more than one person in the panel, right? Once we all go over it, we could throw out all the names of all the fights you want right afterwards. Let's start off with Dave from the 408. I'm going to flat out ask you, who is the best pound for pound fighter in boxing today?
Oh, that's an easy one. Canelo Alvarez.
All right. Well, why Canelo?
He's the face of boxing. He's won multiple weight class titles against solid opposition. I mean, some of these guys that we just talked about earlier are chasing paper titles, but he's won them against real opposition or former champions or former stars of each division. And therefore, I have Canelo today as the face of boxing and my pound for pound, number 1.
Okay. 408 gave his answer. Maestro, do you concur or do you have a different name?
This is a hard rule with the one name, right, D-Cell? No, I know D-Cell likes the fact that I have asterisks for almost everything. Look, my number 1 is Naoya Inoue, and I'm a huge Canelo fan. But the fact that he's able to do what he's able to do at 118 pounds and below, and what I mean by that is just fold dudes. Like, his power at these weight classes is off the charts, once in a generation type talent. And, Canelo's doing his thing at 168 pounds. I give him all the credit in the world, but he's doing his things at 118 pounds and knocking out guys the way he knocks them out at 118 and below. to me kind of sets you apart. The guy is just next level to me, so I'm going to go with Inoue. And ask yourself this: if his name wasn't Noya Inoue, but was like, I don't know, Norman Inglewood or something from like Nebraska, where the fuck would he be right now? Like, this would not even be a debate. Like, we wouldn't even be discussing this. So I'll leave you with that little food for thought.
All right. So 2 names have been put out there. Calix, do you concur with one of those 2 names, or do you have another name?
Nah, I'm going with Norman Inglewood as my pound for pound out of Omaha, Nebraska. No, I'm going Canelo too. He's made it easy in that he's fighting. He's more active. This is a day and age in boxing, 1 to 2 fights a year, right? So he's fighting 4. He's possibly going to fight 5 times in 12 months from December to December. That's his goal. And also he's cleaning out his division, which makes it easier. These are the guys in my division. These are the top guys. These are guys with the real belts. I'm going to knock them out. So he's made it easy. But, and we talked about this the other night, D-Style, Inoue's making it close. He's making it close. We'll leave it at that.
Okay. All right. Joe Habib. Do you concur with anybody, or do you have another name? Best pound for pound fighter in the sport.
Tyson Fury, because he'd kick everyone else's ass.
Okay.
That's why that's for the asterisks.
All right. So Fury all the way, or what?
Fury he could kick the shit out of Inoue and Canelo on the same night, at the same time.
But
beat them both.
It's true.
If that's how you feel. If that's how you feel, but
he beat them southpaw and orthodox.
Oh, okay. All right. Maybe. I don't know if he'll beat him up at the same time now, because think about it. Like Canelo could distract him. Inoue could go from behind and hit him like in the liver, like pop, pop. You know what I mean?
Remember the WWE when Andre the Giant used to fight those handicap matches too?
Yes.
That's what's gonna happen, baby.
Okay, all right. So Tyson Fury. There's only one Tyson Fury. Snorting a line, drinking a pint, out in Miami, cheating on his wife. Hey, all right. So with that said, the best pound for pound boxer in the sport today is Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. I'm just kidding. The name is definitely Saul Canelo Alvarez. I don't even think it's close. I just don't. Okay. I think he's up there as far as having the best defense in the sport. He's offensively a juggernaut. His transitions from offense to defense is second to none, in my opinion, to anybody in the sport. He's got the resume to prove it, the recent resume, along with the career resume to prove it. I'm going to have to go with Saul Canelo Alvarez. All right. Now, let me ask you guys. Why not Crawford? Why not Crawford day 408?
Yeah, as of late in the past, how many fights he hasn't fought anyone? That's a legitimate top echelon threat. I mean, I just don't see him getting these fights with Bob that really would put him and elevate him there. He's done some special things and he's a special fighter, but until he gets in there with the likes of Spence and they make these super fights happen, I don't have him as my pound for pound.
Okay, Maestro, why not Crawford?
I mean, to me, the answer is pretty obvious. He won the 147 title against the weakest guy in the division in Jeff Horn. And he's followed that up with wins against guys that just don't get you into this conversation. I mean, I'm a fan of Benavidez Jr., but Benavidez Jr. is not a world championship level fighter right now. I've got nothing against the Mean Machine. Same thing. I mean, I've got nothing against Kell Brook, but he hasn't been relevant at 147 pounds in ages. And that was his last win. So, I mean, you cannot be in this discussion when, since moving up from 40 pounds, you haven't really done anything. And if we're going to honestly be real, I mean, his win against Ndongo has got to be like literally the weakest win I think I can remember in terms of a unification / undisputed fight. Like,
well said.
Really? I mean, that was his signature win. So I but I can't really consider him in this.
Hey, Calix, really quick, why not Crawford?
We talked about it the other night. He just doesn't have the resume. It may not be, it's not completely his fault, but we also said you have to force the issue at some point. You have to take maybe 30% against Errol Spence, even though you don't feel like you're more deserving. So you have to force the issue, maybe move up to 154 and take a chance like Paul Williams. Paul Williams couldn't get fights at 147. He moved all the way up to 160. Yeah. You got to do things, man, to force the issue. He's got to do it. He's 34 years old.
Well said. Well said. Beeb, really quick. Well, why not Crawford? Because he hasn't lost yet, right? I mean, so why not him?
No super fight yet. It's a shame. 34 years old, as Calix said. Not one super fight yet, right? Not one really marquee name on that resume. Nothing.
So I did want to throw that name out there because some people consider him. So just to answer for anyone watching now in chat, archive, just to give our perspective. It's just he hasn't done anything. There hasn't been anything to show for the division he's participating in. He hasn't beat a top 10 guy since he beat Horn.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a fact. So, and he, so it is what it is. Fair, unfair, whatever the case is. Hey, yeah. T Funky says Shakur number 1. Okay. Now here's the next question. We're going to start with you, Beeb, as we go the opposite end now. Who is a dark horse that should be considered in most pound for pound lists that you really don't see considered a lot, like in the top 5 or something?
Someone that's not in the list at all, you're saying that should
be.
Yeah. Wow, it's tough. Anthony Joshua. Why isn't he in there? I don't care. He's a heavyweight. Look what he's done.
All right. That's a good name. Anthony Joshua should be considered in top 10 pound for pound list. Hey, okay. All right. Calix, who's a dark horse that is not really considered for pound list? Now, by the way, it could be somebody off the list. It could be someone that's too low on list, whatever you want it to be. But who's a dark horse on pound for pound list?
I have 4 guys, but I want to stick to your rule because I know you'll get mad at me. But out of the 4, I'll go with Nonito Donaire because he's a guy who his loss to Inoue was competitive. And as Inoue continues on his tear, that loss is looking a lot better and a lot better. And he just beat Obali to snatch a title. He'll probably beat Casemiro to snatch another title and then go for unification against an Inoue again at 118. So I think he belongs on that pound for pound list.
All right, Nonito Donaire. I like that name. And just big win for him. Milcar, anyone you concur with, or do you have another name?
I mean, I do have another name. So, I mean, it's a name of someone who's not on any lists like that we see generally.
Okay.
Is that what we're saying?
It could be someone not on the list. It could be someone you don't. Maybe they have them 10, but you feel he should be lower. Whatever you want it to be. But who's the dark horse, the pound for pound list in your opinion?
Well, I just think that Maurice Bradis has never really gotten his respect. Period. I mean, he's the best cruiserweight out there. His only loss is to Alexander Usyk. It went the distance. I thought it was a pretty competitive fight, and he's beaten everyone else at 200 pounds. It's unfortunate that the 200-pound division doesn't get that much play, but Maurice Bradis is one of the best fighters in the world, and you almost never hear his name.
Well said. Okay, all right. Same question to you, 408.
My pick is going to be Joshua Taylor. I just looked it up earlier today, and he's not really resonating on that list. And after what he accomplished, I really didn't think he was going to take that from Ramirez, but he did. And he's sitting now with 4 belts. And I actually think he's going to make an impact as a welterweight. So we'll wait and see how he pans out as a welterweight someday. But for right now, I definitely think he should be higher on that list.
I do agree. And that's actually, since you took that one, I'll say this one. I think Jermell Charlo is very low on people's lists.
Yes.
I really do believe
that was my other one, too.
That was one of my 4.
There you go. So Jermell Charlo is definitely low on this. So whenever, there's grievances from Jermell Charlo fans saying, oh, why isn't he higher on the list? I mean, there's some truth to it. You know what I mean? Look at what he's accomplished. Look at what he's done. And some people may say, oh, but he lost, to Harrison, yeah, but guess what? He came back and he avenged that loss, right? And he stopped him. Like those things matter to me because it shows me that you're no longer the same fighter you were. You improved and you beat the guy that beat you, and you're a better fighter because of it now. And that win over Rosario, stopping him the way he did, was in phenomenal. It was a great win, and it was against someone who was a titleist. It was a unification. He's one fight away from, and if he becomes undisputed, you gotta have him in your top 4, in my opinion. Periods. Some may even argue top 3, maybe 2. Like he's definitely up there. You know what I mean? So that's why I will say. Anybody has any other names really quick?
Yes. Chocolatito. And the reason I would say that is I thought he won the Estrada fight, and Estrada is somewhere between 8 and 10 on a lot of people's lists. So I just didn't think Estrada won the fight. And in my opinion, Chocolatito is still on that fringe top 10. So I would definitely put Chocolatito on that list. But official results, I guess, keeps him off the list.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, I said I got a couple names, but we can just go one at a time. I think Oscar Valdez should be on more people's lists. I mean, he had a great run at 126. He moved up in weight. He beat a monster that most people didn't really give him a shot at beating. And you don't really hear much talk about him. And also, he's being avoided by guys at 130. The Tank is going all the way up to 140.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Hey, what about Estrada? I mean, Estrada's someone who's been, top of his division. He beat Rungazai, you know what I mean, who knocked out Chocolatito. I'm just throwing that out there now, Cali, you know what I mean?
That's true.
And he's just not high on people's list for some reason.
I've seen him somewhere between 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there. I just didn't think he won the fight. I thought Chocolatito clearly won it. So that's why I would have Chocolatito.
Chocolatito's a good name, too. If people want to consider him, definitely on the list, for sure. Why not? Any last names before we proceed to the last one here?
Yeah, I got one more. I got Baturviev. He's a unified champ. He's destroyed everybody he's been in there with. And I don't know. I think maybe once you go over 140 or other than Canelo, people aren't really rating you, but he's dominant at 175. There aren't that many guys holding 2 titles in a division. He's one of them.
I got a potential down the road guy that's going to be a force in boxing. I think Jerome Boots Ennis is going to be a star. I love that guy.
Absolutely.
He hasn't fought the fights yet, but my eye test is telling me that he's going to be trouble for just about everybody.
You kind of look at him and it's like, it's a future pound for pound guy. And pound for pound lists like skilled guys like that,
I like that guy.
It's just the way it is.
I still don't think he can beat Tyson Fury, though. I don't think he'll ever be able to beat Tyson Fury.
Akhmadaliev is another double champion. You don't
Akhmadaliev, Yeah, there's man, it's tough to make a top 10 pound for pound, to make that list because there's so many fighters, but a lot of guys that don't get to shine. And unfortunately, I see guys like Tank on list. I don't know why, you know what I mean? That's kind of crazy to me. But hey, we have little room as it is, and you're putting Tank, like no offense to Tank, he might have the skills to be pound for pound, but he is not fighting the guys that solidify that. You know what I mean? Just my opinion. You can't win the MVP in the NBA if you don't play in the NBA. If you're playing in a B League and you're dominating, you don't become MVP in the fucking NBA. You know what I mean? Even if you dominate in the league right below the NBA, it's not the way it works. So Tank's got to fight the top guys to be considered. I just wanted to throw that out there really quick. But the next question is this. It's not so much pound for pound, but just in general, the best fight that could be made in boxing today. I'm going to start with you, Calix. One fight, the one, in your opinion.
I would still have to go with, if Errol Spence does get past Pacquiao, I would still have to go with Crawford Spence Jr. I think that's the one, right? That's the one I would go with.
Man, coming out with a big haymaker. Beeb, do you concur or do you have a different fight?
I like that. I concur 100%. I love that fight. I always did.
All right. Okay. Maestro, best fight to be made in all of boxing.
I don't agree, actually. And believe it or not, I honestly think that Pacquiao versus Spence is going to do bigger business than Crawford versus Spence would ever do. Just in terms of, if you want to talk about the size of the event and of the fight. But
I agree.
I don't, which to me eliminates that fight from being on the number one. But I don't think you can really say a fight other than the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world, Fury versus Joshua. We have not had an undisputed heavyweight champion since Lennox Lewis retired after the fight with Dr. Vitaly Klitschko. And the heavyweight division is the premier division in the sport of boxing. You got two big dudes, 4 titles on the line. I think that that's the biggest fight in the sport.
Oh, man. Okay. That's a haymaker right there. 408. It's getting tough for us here because they're taking some good fights. But in Europe, do you concur with any of those, or do you have a different fight? Best fight to be made in all of boxing.
I got a different one, and I'm not saying this is gonna be a great fight, but I'm saying the most important matchup to be made right now is Canelo versus Plant. Because for every guy after Canelo beats Plant, they're gonna have the opportunity to take 4 belts and be a unified champion. And I think Canelo can easily hold those 4 belts for the next 3 years. We can easily line up 12 opponents, and he might beat them all for the next 3 years. So it's going to have a humongous impact. It may not be a great fight, but it's going to have a huge impact on his legacy and the sport of boxing.
Okay, all right. Well, nothing could beat, Tank Davis versus Mario Barrios now. We got to really consider that one. But in all seriousness, the best fight that could be made in all of boxing, I'm going to say this one, and I got to agree with what Calix said. I do think it's Crawford versus Spence. And while I agree with Maestro, it's Pacquiao's going to do bigger numbers because Pacquiao's a legend. It's kind of the way it is. But in terms of for the hardcore fans, we're all going to know that's going to be for undisputed at the welterweight division. And I hate to break it to all the heavyweight boxing guys. And shout out to Mr. Boxing 282. Shout out to Beeb, who picked Fury to be the top pound for pound. Shout out to Maestro, who's a big, about the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. I hate to break it to you guys, but the new darling division, and it has been in boxing for the last 30 years or so, has been the welterweight division. Since Robinson, Leonard, Duran moved up there, Hearns fought there. You got the Trinidad's, De La Hoyas, you had the Floyd Mayweathers, Pacquiao's. Without a shadow of a doubt, the darling division, and that would be for all the marbles. I don't think we're going to get it, but Crawford versus Spence is my answer. Okay? Now, go ahead, Calix.
No, I was just going to say it all depends on how you define best, right? Because if we're saying the biggest event for boxing, it would definitely be Fury versus Joshua. And it is important, too, to have the heavyweight champion of the world. I just have a better feeling as a boxing fan of what would happen in that fight. I think Fury would outclass Joshua, and I think it would be disappointing. Actually, I don't have a feel of what would happen between Crawford and Spence. I don't really have a feel for it. And I just think it would be a better fight between two elite guys that you could say, okay, I can understand those 2 guys are possibly top 3, 4 pound for pound fighters in the world. So I think it's important for boxing fans, and it would be a good fight, great fight, great matchup.
Fun fight to watch.
Well said. And I want to thank everyone, man, that came on. Shout out to Ring IQ, Chief Funky, Gale, and, of course, thank you to 408. Calix coming on here, and, of course, my comrades, Maestro A and the one and the only Joe Habib on here. All that good stuff. Plug in your stuff, guys, and give us some quick final thoughts. Maestro.
Yeah, final thoughts. Always a pleasure to be on the round table. This is always the best discussion in boxing, not just on YouTube, but anywhere for that matter. Always a pleasure to see my man Calix on live with us. Dave from the 408, been far too long. Great to see you again, bro. Joe, always a pleasure to be live with you. And D-Style, the one and only, thank you for the invite as always. I'll be going live for overtime. I'm going to switch over there to get set up now. Just want to thank everyone for tuning in live. That's everyone in the chat. And thank you. See you guys later.
Absolutely. Go to Maestro A Boxing for overtime. 408.
Hey,
Final thoughts. Go ahead.
Thanks a lot for having me on, man. It's always a pleasure talking with this great group of guys. You know what? Calix Boxing, he took me back with that Montreal Expos hat. I got a lot of nostalgia as a child. My stepdad played baseball with a Hall of Famer from the Montreal Expos, Andres Galarraga from Venezuela, one of the best first basemen to come out of the country of Venezuela. And as a child, he would always give us front row tickets or right behind home plate when he'd come to see the San Francisco Giants and play. And I've got very fond memories of that team, the Montreal Expos. And since we're talking baseball, here's a proposition I'm going to make. Jake Paul's talking on social media that he doesn't see himself not fighting Canelo Alvarez someday. So I got an idea. After Canelo's done fighting Caleb Plant and whooping him, why not have the first ever doubleheader? And he can take on Jake Paul and whoop him in front of a sold-out crowd. And that's my final thought, man. You guys can catch me at the Shoe Shine on YouTube, catch the replay, or catch it live on Mondays. Thanks a lot, D-Styles.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for coming on, brother. We appreciate your time. Hey, Calix, talk to Final Round Touch Gloves. Give us your final thoughts. Plug in your stuff.
Lomachenko, he's back. It's important for the sport. We're going to find out a lot about Lomachenko, whether he was overvalued, a little overrated coming up, or if he can get back on this get on a revenge tour and back to Teofimo Lopez. I think the fact that he's taking on one of the biggest 135 pounders after everybody's saying he's not a true 135 pounder is a flex. And if he gets past this fight, he's got Teofimo. He's got a lot on the line. He could get Teofimo again later on in the year on ESPN pay-per-view. So it's good to have Lomachenko back. Let's not just throw him away after a loss last year. Let's give him a chance to defend himself. And he's going to have a shot at doing this Saturday. So good to see Lomachenko back. Good fight weekend. And hit me up, Calix Boxing 2.0. Right here on YouTube. Hit that sub button.
Absolutely. And Joe Habib, last but not least, touch gloves, give us some final thoughts, and plug in your stuff.
Smell the big upset coming up on Saturday, man. Nakatani, baby. It's going to be the upset of the year. This is going to be one of our. This is
bigger than Logan Paul?
Close second. Close second. But yeah, this is gonna be a great fight. I'm actually really looking forward to this, and I like these types of fights because you have questions about both guys, and the intrigue for this fight is so great. And what's very disappointing is this fight's for free, and then you have another fight on pay-per-view that I don't hate it, but I just like this fight so much better, and I don't have to pay for this one. So I'm just sick of the counter programming. Hopefully boxing can get it right eventually. But yeah, I think this Nakatani fight with Lomachenko is going to be a very, very fun fight to watch, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Absolutely. The link is in the chat for everyone listening. Go ahead and go over to Maestro. Click on that link right there. I just posted it. It'll take you to the show. I'll be joining Maestro for a little bit myself. Right. For those that want to call in, those that were saying, hey, drop the link. We do drop the link on overtime. So you guys can go over there if you want. This is D-Style Boxing. I want to thank everyone once again for coming on. Right. And by the way, Race Reporter every Sunday. All right. Make sure you tune in with Beeb and Eric Lorda, best boxing show on Sundays. Period. All right. This is D-Style Boxing. Keep it boxing. We're out of here. Peace.